For joining us today. I'm Dan Bly, one of the insurance partners at Scrutton Bland. It's a great pleasure to welcome you to this, the latest in our Advisor Live series. I had planned to speak with you all this morning from home, but sadly as a Virgin Media customer, that's not been possible. Hopefully everyone should be able to hear me okay. Popping into the office to make sure the technology works. So hopefully you can all hear me okay. Just to quickly recap, Advisor Live is somewhere between a webinar, podcast and a training session. It's designed to be short and sweet and as interactive as possible. Given the numbers we have on the call today, we have muted microphones and ask that you contribute to the discussion via the chat box on the right hand side. My fellow partner, Tim Mully, is working with me today to address any questions in real time as they come in. What we wanted to achieve with Advisor Live is something that is timely, relevant, easily digestible and engaging. We have set 3 ground rules. We will be doing these sessions at least weekly or more frequently where events dictate. They will last no more than 30 minutes, and we will make them as collaborative as possible and ensure that we follow up on questions raised in real time and in summary after the session. We hope you find Advisor Live useful and welcome any feedback, please, to hello@scruttonbland.co.uk. Now, on with one of today's subjects, and on the basis that these sessions only last for 30 minutes maximum, that does only give my colleague Paul Goddard and I 15 minutes each to quickly rattle through each of our topics. So, on the subject of insurance, I thought it would be an idea to give a quick summary of the insurance market, focusing in on some specific areas that are of considerable interest and importance. Top of the list, of course, has to be business interruption. The tremendous changes in our business and personal lives in recent months has required everyone to adapt to different ways of doing business. In many cases, it's involved checking insurance policies to see if there is any aspect of the current crisis that is covered by insurance covers. The spread of coronavirus is, of course, unprecedented in modern times, and insurers understand that this is an incredibly difficult time for families and businesses. No insurance market provides widespread insurance coverage for pandemics, and the UK is no exception. Epidemics and pandemics are almost always excluded from business interruption policies. This is partly because the economic losses from viral outbreaks like COVID-19 are very hard to measure, as they rarely cause immediate physical damage to a business in the same way as fire and flood. There are also very few business models for insurers to use to calculate risk and loss. So there are no specific insurance solutions currently available for the UK market to provide cover against coronavirus. For this type of cover to be available and affordable, it would require a very significant subsidy from the government, given the scale of business interruption we have seen with COVID-19. Instead, standard commercial insurance policies, the type the vast majority of businesses purchase, provide cover against a wide range of day-to-day risks, including damage caused by fire, flood, theft, and accidents involving employees. Every day, insurers action roughly claims of 22 million to firms through business interruption policies, supporting millions of firms across the UK each year. As recognised by the insurance regulator, most policies have basic cover and do not cover pandemics, and insurers have no obligation to pay out in relation to COVID-19. Only a very small number of businesses choose to buy any form of cover that includes business interruption due to a notifiable or infectious disease. Usually, these extensions list the very specific diseases which are covered, not any notifiable disease that may emerge, such as COVID. And even a smaller number of businesses will have cover where the notifiable or infectious disease is unspecified, potentially enabling them to claim for the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. However, and this is the crucial bit, such policies often only apply when the disease is present at the premises. These policies will cover the interruption to trade caused where business premises have been infected by an illness, such as Legionnaire's disease or norovirus, and where the building needs to be closed and cleaned. to deal with the specific incident. We're finding that insurers are already starting to impose new exclusions relating to COVID-19 for new policies and those due for renewal. In large part, they say that these are tightening or more so clarifying exclusions that already existed and are to make it clear that it was never their intention to cover pandemic exposures. So in conclusion, and I'm sure many of you sadly already knew the answer, no one really will find themselves in a position whereby they're able to successfully recoup their financial losses due to this pandemic. Many, of course, will have closed business premises altogether and dramatically adapted how best they navigate their way through this difficult time. It's hugely important to bear in mind the implications of doing so and consider the stipulations made by your insurer regarding your business activities and unoccupancy. Many insurers have already taken a proactive approach of extending the period in which you must notify your insurer about your premises becoming unoccupied, and extended the standard period of notification from 30 to 90 days. This is of course sensible, but again worth remembering the need to regularly inspect the premises, ensuring all is well, alarms are set. Failure to do so, of course, may affect claims under your policy following a break-in and resulting theft or vandalism. There is, of course, the diversification angle to consider, in effect, what a business might be forced to undertake. We're seeing businesses trying to adapt to keep trading, modifying their usual working methods, perhaps offering a delivery service, or even adapting what they manufacture. Ventilators, for example, or perhaps something totally different involving voluntary work, using company-owned work vehicles. It is expected that insurers will be flexible about minor adjustments, but it would be prudent to firstly advise your broker to make sure they are aware of any changes and in turn can update insurers. It basically comes down to material fact and ensuring that should a claim arise, there is no doubt that the insurers fully understood your business processes you undertake and the services that you provide. At this difficult time, there is of course the notion to perhaps scale back the level of cover a business or individual might have, or even go so far as to cancel or even not renew a policy. Adjusting a policy to reflect a much reduced wage roll following employees being furloughed or even being made redundant is a sensible approach. We are therefore asking insurers to consider premium credits to reflect the decreased employer's liability exposure. This is also being done to reflect reduced turnovers, which again could correlate to a decline in public and products liability claims. There is no consensus yet in the market, but we have seen some insurers reduce premiums accordingly. I have to say that the premium reductions are very much on the modest side. There is, of course, a flip side to this, and for those businesses out there that are perhaps overtrading in the current environment, turnover and stock levels might be underestimated, and that could lead to underinsurance. If this does apply to you, again, it's important to please refer to your broker. Cancelling or lapsing a policy at renewal is, however, pretty drastic, so it's worth remembering the importance of maintaining cover to protect business premises, content, stock, so on and so forth. It's crucial to maintain liability insurance. Both employers and public liability policies, of course, provide cover for injuries caused by acts or omissions of the business, and in the current climate, reasonable care will certainly include following government advice as far as you possibly can, both in the workplace and when engaging with members of the public. It's worth remembering that many liability policies are arranged on a claims made basis, so effectively a live insurance policy must be in place at the time a claim is made for insurers to respond. If a tradesman, for example, decided to lapse their cover at renewal because of lockdown, and then a claim arose today from a job he carried out a few months back, the claim would not be met by insurers. Many might deem the prospect of historical issues cropping up to be quite slim, but is it really worth taking the chance? For home working, employers' liability insurance will normally automatically extend to cover employees working from home in a clerical capacity. However, we would recommend that you ensure you are complying with health and safety requirements for all staff now working from home. As a minimum, you should be reviewing the adequacy of your health and safety policy for home working, workloads and delivery times, adequacy on support station risk assessments, and if possible, some sort of PAT testing for electrical devices. Regarding motor insurance, it's obviously worth bearing in mind vehicle security. You may have had to park up vehicles due to a lack of demand for work. Ensuring that they're kept in secure compounds or yards wherever possible, and that all security devices are fully operative so that your insurance is not invalidated. If your vehicles that will be laid up for some time, it's worth considering registering them as off the road or SORN, as most insurers will charge less premium or provide a credit towards your next insurance premium. You will still benefit from cover for fire and theft though. For travel insurance, of course, a really hot topic. Most insurers have indicated that if existing annual travel policy holders have booked holidays beyond the expiry date of their current policies, they will be covered in respect of those future holidays. This will be done through the issuance of single trip policies covering those specific holidays. New and renewal of annual travel policies, however, are likely to have the COVID-19 exclusion. In these uncertain times, we are aware that many contractors may wish to cancel their policies. Again, before cancelling, it's worth considering the following. Ongoing sites, half-completed works can be left with a homeowner, but the contractor may still be responsible for loss or damage and will certainly be held liable for any injury that arises from those works. Tools and plant. It's understandable that many do not see any value in these covers whilst they're not working, as tools and plant remain unused. It has come to insurers' attention, however, that criminals have been exploiting unoccupied construction sites, both small and large, to steal plants. In these uncertain times, our advice, of course, is to keep tools and plant insured and comply with policy conditions regarding security. Contract works liability. After works have been completed, there will still be a period where risk remains present. Escape of water, collapse, or electrical fires can still occur months after contractors have left the site. It's therefore important not to cancel the policy because, again, like before, it must be enforced at the time of loss, not when the work necessarily carried out. Lastly, just to talk about finance regarding premiums and to assist all-important cash flow, it's worth considering financing via monthly direct debit. If you're one of those clients who have always paid premium annually in full, just in one go to get it done, why not consider premium finance instead? It's probably fair to say that whilst there aren't many competitive insurer direct debit schemes available, brokers do have access to premium credit, for example, who can arrange competitive instalment plans. I appreciate that's quite a speedy overview of the insurance markets and what we're seeing as a broker. So please do get in touch now and beyond with any questions or inquiries that you may have. I'll also be looking at the questions that are popping up on the right-hand side in a moment. So for now, thank you very much all for listening. And if I may now pass you over to my colleague, Paul Goddard, who will be covering home working in more detail, wellbeing and security.
Great, thank you, Dan. Yes, good morning, everyone. My name's Paul Goddard, and I'm Risk and Assurance Department at Scott & Bland. So I'm going to be talking to you about the home working, and as Dan mentioned, it's communication, staff wellbeing and data security. It was Charles Darwin that said, "It is the long history of humankind and animal kind too, that those who learn to collaborate and improvise most effectively have prevailed." Well, after a period of adjustment, I hope you've all developed new ways of working and communicating with your teams that have worked for you, even if some of this has been learnt by trial and error. From a standing start in some cases, I suspect you've all become accustomed with using video conferencing, such as WebEx, but telephone calls and emails still have their place. For some of our home working staff, there'll be a need to combat loneliness. We're social animals. Part of the reason we go to work is that we love being with other people. We shouldn't take the threat of loneliness lightly during the pandemic because it can lead to both poor mental and physical health. There are 4 primary ways of communicating with your team remotely, and currently more time is needed to manage this well than it ordinarily would. There are alignment conversations where we as managers would lead on these. The agenda would be determined by you as manager, and it's used for setting goals and providing updates to staff. There are the one-to-ones. Generally, we'd aim for short, regular meetings that the staff lead if possible, where we can ask them what they need from us to make their job easier. We certainly would not want to hijack those meetings or to cancel them due to other priorities. And in some cases, these meetings work well when they're held daily. There are the team meetings for everyone to hear the same message, to keep the team connected. And it's important to try and give time to talk and for these to happen at least weekly. But then there are the social meetings, the non-business, asking them what are they looking forward to. Could be Friday afternoon catch-ups, creating a forum for all working and furloughed staff to interact together. Depending on the size of your teams, the use of surveys can be a powerful way of trying to read the mood of the wider staff and then to respond accordingly. To make all of this work, we need to think about each member of staff's goals. We need to keep clarifying these. We need to reach out to staff, and to keep doing this, we need to be particularly appreciative of all staff's efforts right now, which really is more important than ever. We need to be able to empathise with our teams and be giving this regular feedback to fuel development and their engagement. By doing all of this, we can keep building trust within our workforce through fair, consistent, good communication and demonstrated through good decision making. You could try taking a quick pulse check by asking staff, how are they feeling this morning? And if you're told the usual, that they're fine, but you suspect there's more there, you could ask the question again, well, how are you really feeling? I think now is a chance to practice listening more to your team and what they are really saying. With productive time needing to be spent supporting your team more than ever, you could consider developing something called a not to do list for yourself, and perhaps to encourage your team to do the same. These can be more effective than to-do lists for upgrading performance. So they're helping you to avoid those distractions that lose you time, that working at home we can all relate to. Do you feel that you've been able to develop a structure for your day-to-day that reflects anything like the normality of the office? I think routine and the structure are crucial to making the quarantine period tolerable. And what starts really is with your sleep. It's resisting the urge to hit the snooze button, which I probably do most days. And in what was described as the largest sleep study ever conducted, researchers in Canada's Western University found that oversleeping can dampen your cognitive function, just as sleep deprivation can. And at the same time, starting work early, working very late can cause problems for some. And this is something that's important for you to monitor within yourself, but also for your staff. Try encouraging your staff to build a permanent workspace and for you to do the same. The beneficial step to designate that area of your home specifically for getting work done, regardless of space or location, establishes an area for your home work where you can commit to working in that space every day. Ensure your workspace can be quiet when it needs to be so that you can focus on the task in hand. And you may be, like myself, sharing the available space with one or more other members of the household. So there might be prime sites that are really important to use because they are quieter and you've got the scenario that you need for your work. Try and plan ahead and make certain you can use that space when needed. Can you support and challenge your staff to make sure their working area is tidy, that wires are not causing hazard, that the chairs being used are supporting their back and maintaining good posture? Sometimes bad practice can creep in, and that gentle reminder may be gratefully received. Some staff are getting competitive, using running, cycling apps such as Strava to track their exercise efforts together as a team. And some of you may have learnt recently of the 2.6 mile back garden challenge that's linked to the postponed London Marathon. It's gathered momentum, and as businesses, we can encourage this. I think all of us will agree that mental health is so important and that awareness is there. But with the current office downtime, now's a good opportunity for businesses to have a serious think about their approach to supporting the mental health of their staff. Many organisations provide access to wellbeing services for their teams. There are online services available through the NHS and many other private providers that staff can be directed to. Today's week 2 of Wellbeing Wednesday here at Scrutt and Bland, and we're using this to help staff to reflect on how they're taking care of themselves. Some will have parental responsibilities, some may be feeling unwell, others are likely to feel overwhelmed, and some will be working long hours in difficult conditions. Are they getting themselves hydrated? Are they sitting comfortably? Are they getting up and having regular breaks? The important role we can play is to make them feel supported and to be asking those supportive questions. There are training communications that are designed to help support our team's well-being that can help. There are a number of useful online videos that can be shared with staff to provide demonstrations of good home working setup, self-resilience, how to be kind to yourselves, and many others. And on the other side of lockdown, perhaps persuading some members of staff to come back to an office environment may be harder than we think. Some are experiencing the benefits of no commuting and greater productivity. And at the end of lockdown, an important question that we need answering is, well, do we actually need to work from the office? And this could lead to some positive discussions in the future. Try to make sure that you've considered this and have agreed responses for when the time comes. Where staff have been furloughed, we need to be thinking about what support we can give them. Are these staff members being regularly communicated with? Can they be invited to attend regular team meetings? Reaching out to them in different ways and providing updates will help them to still feel part of the team. Just reflecting on data security now, moving most business operations into the home poses new risks to both paper and electronic data. Information can be compromised in transit or intercepted by cyber criminals. We should all be only using the business usual encrypted methods to communicate and share files. Many organizations are discovering that there's value to be gained from using Microsoft Teams within Office 365. If its use is being developed during lockdown within your business, you do need to think about what data is being stored within this environment, who has access to each team channel, and that it's being created so that staff are clear on how it needs to be used before any files are being accessed within. To minimize data loss, we need to think about where you and your teams are keeping key documents. Can they be stored away securely when not in use? Are you assured that any printed personal and confidential data used by staff is being retained, ready to be shredded when we return to our places of work? It's important to require staff to shut down laptops and desktops at the end of each day. This makes it more secure should the device be stolen, but also enables those security updates to be completed as soon as possible. There needs to be an increased awareness of the risk of phishing attacks, and there are more of them, but there's also at the moment an increased likelihood of their success. Because if you reflect, while staff are separated from one another, they may be feeling vulnerable, unsure, perhaps their decision making is not as well tuned as normal, and they're working with new tasks and new processes. There are new scams that criminals are using to capitalize on the situation, purporting to be from the government, HMRC, Microsoft, and other key services that we all work with. Any link that requires you to verify your details needs to be treated as suspicious. Don't open emails from unknown sources, download attachments, or click on links if you're not sure they're genuine. I appreciate this is very common knowledge, but at this time it's just important just to reflect on that again and just remind your teams. Maybe a good time to consider sending out a phishing test email to staff to assess their responses. Are they switched on to these more suspicious links, or are people clicking on them? If they're clicking, it would feed that back to you and it would allow you to take any necessary action. Just thinking about personal data breaches and GDPR compliance for a moment, the Information Commissioner's Office has provided some clarity over their position during the pandemic, and they've confirmed that organisations should continue to report specific personal data breaches to them without undue delay, but they recognise that the current crisis may mean that it will be completed outside the set 72 hours. They've confirmed that they will assess data breach reports, taking appropriately empathetic and proportionate approach. So there's some reassurance that they will be taking account of the difficult circumstances we were all working within. I would recommend providing reminders to staff to think about how their changed working practices may impact on how personal information is being handled in the home. So reflecting on where we are, and as we innovate, there will be new ways of working that we find are better for us, that we're likely to continue to use even after lockdown has ended. So there are positives to take from all of this. Well, I hope that some of these thoughts have been useful for you, and it's been great that you've been able to join us today. Thank you. These webinars are weekly, and we'll be sharing details over the next week's event very shortly. We're posting articles and updates regularly on the website, and you can subscribe to our emails via the Scratton Bland site. If you do have questions, we do our very best to answer these. So please do use our hello@ScrattonBland email address, or use the comments section here within the webinar. Thank you very much. Have a good day.